this is Africa in 10 minutes, where we bring to you the trending business news as reported on Footprint to Africa. I'm Chamaka J. Uwadokan on the headlines. Four African carriers recognized at the 2017 World Airline Awards. Kenyan and South African business communities partner to grow intra-African trade. 3 indigenous firms set to produce first crude oil in Nigeria. Tigo Tanzania invests $100 million to improve its network. China to invest $7 billion in African floating LNG projects. And now the news in details. 4 African airlines have been recognized for their performance in varied categories at the Skytrax 2017 World Airline Awards, which was held at the Paris Air Show in France. These airlines include Ethiopian Airlines, South African Airways, Royal Air Maroc, and Fastjet. They won Best Airline in Africa, Best Airline Staff in Africa, Best Regional Airline, and Best Low-Cost Airline in Africa, respectively. The group CEO of Ethiopian Airlines attributed the airline's success to heavy investments in customer service, human resource development, modern fleet, infrastructure, and ICT. Ethiopia's national airline recently ordered 10 additional Airbus aircraft with a $159 million financing package from the African Development Bank to finance its expansion plan, which includes modernizing its fleet. In other news, Kenyan and South African business people are committed to promoting the economic growth of both countries, building mutually sustainable relations, and intra-African trade. The vital role of South African businesses in growing Kenya's economy was impressed at a seminar jointly organized by the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry and South Africa's Department of Trade and Industry in Nairobi, Kenya. The seminar, under the theme Exploring Trade and Investment Opportunities between Kenya and South Africa, was part of the DTI's outward selling mission to Kenya. The Director of Export Promotion at the DTI, Sima Sada, said, "The DTI's new approach to continental development embraces an investment-led strategy anchored on the pillars of market integration, industrial development, and infrastructure expansion." While identifying agribusiness, services, automotives, capital equipment, infrastructure development, and energy as some of the areas where the two countries can collaborate in, Sada explained that Trade and Invest Africa, an entity within the DTI, has been established with the express purpose of advancing the strategy. Joyce Ngondo, the Director of Internal Trade at the Kenyan Department of Trade, stressed the need for Kenyan and South African companies to devise market-oriented solutions to address the growing trade imbalance to create win-win solutions between the two countries. She also underlined the Kenyan government's commitment to enhance trade and investment relations with South Africa. Moving on, 3 Nigerian oil firms, Century E&P, Excel E&P, and Millennium Oil and Gas, are reported to produce their first batch of crude oil. Africa Oil and Gas Report has said that the 3 companies have prospected the oil fields, completed development, and installed facilities required to drill oil. The report further confirmed that Century Energy E&P is on course of putting the Atala Marginal Field on stream. Excel E&P has now formally started to inject about 800 barrels of crude oil per day from the Aremo field into the Transfocado system, and sources at Millennium Oil and Gas say it has less than 60 days to go to complete all the remaining hookup and commissioning facilities for startup at the Oza field. Telecommunications and digital lifestyle company Tigo has announced a $100 million investment to enhance its 2G, 3G, and 4G networks in an effort to transform broadband experience for its customers. The initiative has resulted to growth of data subscribers over 1 year, said Jerome Albu, Chief Technical and Information Officer, Tigo Tanzania. Tigo has grown its subscriber base to more than 10 million over the last 3 years, becoming the 2nd largest network operator in Tanzania. The company has modernized and expanded the existing 2G, 3G, and 4G networks in all the major cities and towns across Tanzania. Tigo's network improvement is based on customer surveys, economic activities, penetration of data-enabled devices, and feedback from other stakeholders, including the Tanzania Communication Regulatory Authority and the Ministry of Works, Transport and Communications. It also includes the commissioning of 2,294 kilometers of backbone fiber, which traverses through 22 new district headquarters in the country, expanding the existing national ICT backbone footprint, as well as increasing the number of fiber points across key Tanzanian cities and allowing Tigo to provide high-speed internet in the new districts. The new fiber ensures alternative transmission routes to assure seamless service provision in case of cuts. In energy, China is betting heavily on African floating LNG projects and is planning a mammoth investment of $7 billion in a strategic push to corner the market for itself. A report by Reuters argued that the move is considered very risky, as China will be taking a gamble on a largely untested technology in the hope that energy markets will recover by the time they start production in the early 2020s. Western investment firms and international banks have expressed their concerns owing to the unattractive state of commercial shipping and the poorly structured gas markets across Africa. But China is undeterred, largely due to the desperate need for gas. The Asian giant sees gas as an alternative to environmentally degrading coal power and believes gas is a solution to cleaner air for its cities. China also foresees that the untapped gas market in Africa presents an opportunity for cheaper gas. Reuters reports that China, the world's second largest economy, is making a strategic push into FLNG, aiming to becoming the lowest cost seller of the complex floating plants and lead the global rollout of a technique that remains in its infancy, with only one project in commercial production so far. In investment news, the International Monetary Fund has approved a $660 million loan facility to Cameroon. The loan facility, which has a short 3-year tenure, was granted to support the country's economic reforms. Since the oil crisis began, oil-producing countries within the Central Africa's CEMAC currency union have struggled to meet their economic obligations. Cameroon has struggled even more as it has had to channel a significant part of its dwindling revenues into combating the growing threat of terrorism from West African neighbor Nigeria, as Islamic sect Boko Haram continues to wreak havoc. The Deputy Managing Director of the IMF, in a statement released to Reuters, said having initially shown resilience owing to its greater diversification, the Cameroonian economy is now facing decelerating growth, declining fiscal and external buffers, and rapidly rising public debt. The IMF has earlier agreed to lend $642 million to Gabon, Cameroon's neighbor, as Gabon is facing similar economic challenges as Cameroon. And finally this week, German-based solar energy firm Mobisol has bought Lumita, a pay-as-you-go off-grid software firm. The acquisition is expected to assist Mobisol, which operates in Kenya, Rwanda and Tanzania, provide customers with affordable products and services while operating a direct line between itself and off-grid product manufacturers and distributors. The deal brings together customers, hardware and back-end solutions of the two leading companies in PayG. Lumita is known for its solar market software that utilizes available microfinancing systems in rural communities. This provides access to solar power on a pay-as-you-go platform. That concludes the trending news. Stay tuned for a recap of the stories. 4 African carriers recognized at the 2017 World Airline Awards. Kenyan and South African business communities partner to grow intra-African trade. 3 indigenous firms set to produce first crude oil in Nigeria. Tigo Tanzania invests $100 million to improve its network. China to invest $7 billion in African floating LNG projects. Cameroon secures $660 million loan from the International Monetary Fund. And German solar firm acquires software firm to boost operations in East Africa. To keep up with the trending business news in Africa, stay connected. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and connect with us on LinkedIn. This news and reports are called from Footprints Africa. For daily updates and more business news in Africa, log on to www.footprint2africa.com today. Footprint to Africa. Business news made in Africa by Africans.